called Jagannath, one is called Muralidhara, and one is called Shrisha. Like, she has all these names which are connected to Bhagavatam. Okay, so she had this mother-in-law who would consider my grandmother like untouchable. She wouldn't allow my grandmom in the kitchen. She would treat her like a slave, and she wouldn't let my grandmother touch her own children.
What?
It's so crazy.
Oh my God.
And my great grandmom had her character, personality. I lived with my grandparents in my high school, and my great grandmother was also in the house. I grew up in a huge joint family, so I would listen to my great grandmom saying all kinds of undesirable things to my grandmother. And my grandmother, just with all her grace and her detachment and her indifference, would just continue her day without, I was just thinking, if that would happen to me even 1 second of my life, all my self-esteem will be shredded into pieces, and I would be left with no piece, not even a single piece of self-esteem.
Yeah, I can
But
imagine.
she had this ability to. You were saying something, Toshani? We can put both of us on the screen when you're coming.
I don't know how to do both of us at the same time,
Okay.
unfortunately. But I'm just thinking, wow, I mean, your grandmother sounds like a very strong woman. And even though it happens in the past so often, I guess it's still happening now, and some mother-in-laws are not the best. I'm lucky, but I've heard lots of horror stories, and I can't imagine your grandmother going through this. I don't understand it,
Yeah. Another thing is also the grandfather was not with my grandmother. That's the worst part of the story. He was really somehow he loved his mom more. I mean, I guess that happens sometimes. Yeah, it was really hard for my grandmother. But that's the thing, when we hear some typical traditional stories of Vedic women stories, I'm a little bit like, I really want to redefine this word. When we say Vedic, oh, what are the Vedic principles? It's a very misunderstood word. It's a very loaded word. It's very easy to say, oh, you're not Vedic, you're not chaste. Yeah, but this is not a Vedic world. This is not a world where you can apply Vedic principles, first thing. Then second thing, you should be a Vedic woman with a Vedic man, right? So there are so many discrepancies in understanding this point about Vedic. So yeah, so the point is this: my grandmother had developed this ability to separate herself from what was happening. In other words, usually when something happens to us, we make that as our identity, like we let it affect our identity, and that's what she didn't do. And that's what today I want to share, like 5 secrets that I've learned from her that has changed my life. And the first secret is, we'll start with the secrets, unless Toshani has something you want to add to these.
No, I love where you're going with everything. I'm just thinking about, your grandmother's gone through this. She's 85. I would just like to know how you're going to blend it into a modern society, but modern civilization. But I know you're going to do this, so I will let you continue.
As I said, why I consider the story of my grandmother very relevant, very applicable, is because of the situations that she went through. And in fact, I consider that if she could manage in the life situations that she had, any woman can. She was educated. She had a master's degree in Hindi, and she knew she had a degree in music, but she never worked. You see, this is, what is it, 1930s, 1920s, 1930s, something like this. So she didn't have the freedom to just go out, get a job, have her financial freedom. So what she would do is, like, I'm just saying, like, that ability that she had for mental strength and emotional stability, because when things happen around me, I'm just like, emotional stability is so hard to maintain. But I always remember my grandmother, and I can picture herself We had this little kitchen. It's an old house that my grandfather had built. And there was a little kitchen which was her territory because she wasn't allowed to go anywhere in the house because of my
What?
great grandmother. Terrible. So she had this little tiny, like I'm seeing my computer place here, and that's basically what was her deity room, like a little shelf inside one of the kitchen pots. She had one shelf, and then there she had like deity, like small deities of Krishna, and then she had Lakshmi, and she had Balaji, pictures of Balaji, like that small place. And that was her center of her life, because that's where she would spend time circumambulating. She couldn't even
Yeah.
go around the kitchen, so she would just turn around. And actually right now you are on the screen.
No, no, no. It's you. It's just a speak. When I say something, then it comes up.
Oh, that's
It's on
good.
speak of you.
That's good. So then she would have this place where she would just like turn around, like I'm gonna show you. Turn around like that. I mean, not on the chair. Sorry, not on the chair. That's my.
Yeah.
She wouldn't turn around on the chair, but she would turn walking, like
Wow.
around and pay obeisance. And she would do that 100 times in the morning, 108 times in the morning, and 108 times in the evening.
What? That's intense.
That was her
Devotion.
devotion and her surrender, and that's where she was taking shelter. So all the chaos was going on in the house by my great grandmother and my grandfather, and she would stay there in that little corner, and she would circumambulate. She would pay obeisances. And I asked her one time, where did you get that strength to deal with these two difficult people in the universe? And then she said, Krishna gave me the strength. Every time I was doing that parikrama, I was calling out to him, and he would how do you call it, invest. He would just invest strength within me. He would just invest that emotional stability so that I wouldn't lose it. Because if she lost it, then the children would lose it, and it would affect everyone. And then she has 11 grandchildren. I'm the first among the grandchildren.
You are lucky.
And as she's the first among her parents, and my mom is the first among my grandmother's children, and I'm the first. So we're all like first women. I have a picture of that. I'm going to share it later in the Quintessential Project. So there's the 5 generations, and I am just like 1 day old or a few days old. My mom is holding me, and I'm the first daughter, and my mom is standing next to her mom, first daughter, and first daughter, 5 generations.
Wow, I have to see this photo.
They're all first. They're all first of the generation. Actually, wow. I could bring that picture as I'm talking. So the point is, this woman, she had such a difficult life. But one thing I saw her, like, I'm going to start out with the secrets. Okay, the first secret is this. If you can have the text up, you can try to put it up, Toshani. The first secret is, don't compare your life or yourself to others or other people's life. First secret, because that's her secret for mental and emotional strength. She would never compare and say, oh, my sister has a better husband. My sister doesn't have a mother-in-law who's so miserable and so, how do you call it, monster, such a monster. She wouldn't say that. And she wouldn't burn down her hut looking at other people's palaces. She had sisters and brothers who were living a better life, more harmonious life, they were more accepted. Oh yeah, another thing I have to tell you, she was compared constantly by her family. By her family, was because she was darker in complexion. I don't know why this Indian people sometimes have this weird priority for skin color, but because she was darker, she was like a black swan in the family, even within her mother's family. Then even when she came, so she always had that complex, but she wouldn't give power to it. even if other people compared, she would take care. I mean, you saw her 85-year-old skin. It's better than my skin. She really took care. I mean, you know what means taking care, right? When
Mhm.
she's washing the pot or something, there would be a little bit of the cream left, and she would apply, and that was her moisturizer, because they didn't
What?
have financial freedom to buy moisturizer.
Hare
And
Krishna.
oh yeah, and she would just apply coconut oil as a moisturizer for herself on her body and her skin. In fact, I'm also doing the same thing. I use coconut oil as a moisturizer, as a cleanser, because it's yeah, it's simpler for my mind. But it was her situation that she couldn't go out and
Yeah.
get some creams or whatever, right? So she had this discipline and consistency in how she was taking shelter of the Lord, how she was taking shelter of the deities, and the practice of her sadhana was this parikram and singing. She would sing
Mm.
quietly. She couldn't sing loud. So she would
Mm.
like I've been to Iran where people like cannot practice Krishna consciousness openly, so they have to like hide in their closet little pictures of Krishna and they worship. And so I've seen my grandmother literally do that.
Well,
Although there was a puja room, but my grandmother was not allowed there. Please remember
Hare
that.
Krishna. Oh my
She
gosh,
wasn't
this is
allowed.
this. Just telling me this, I can feel the pain and like being ostracized from her family and just being an outsider already from her own family and then marrying into a family like this. It's just, I don't know. And I'm looking at her photo and she looks so happy. So she really has a source of inner strength and inner happiness. It's just amazing.
So true. That's so, so true. You said it. That's actually the summary or frame of her character and her personality, that ability. Yeah. I don't know how she
Amazing.
did.
Krishna. It's amazing. Go on, sorry.
Yeah. So, I learned from her that we may be living in a hut, and our hut maybe it has a thatched roof and it's leaking. We may have circumstances in our life which again is a result of our own karma. Nobody to blame. And so to not burn down that hut because people around us have a palace. You look at other people's palace and then you burn down your hut. What have we got, right? So she is that example for me to take care of that hut, no matter what condition it is, but you keep that hut together. And in fact, she did that. She kept her composure. She kept herself composed, and she became an example for me about a woman who feels good about herself and therefore has the ability to fight all other you can say weapons that is trying to derail her or put her down, put her self-esteem down. She just had that. And again, it's spiritual strength essentially, but she also had the discipline to do certain small little things that would make her feel that she's doing her best. So you were asking this question in the beginning, like, well, how can today's world, how can we apply principles that say women in the previous generations were able to apply? Because these days we have much more freedom. We've given so much more freedom to go out there, explore relationships, explore. That's another thing my grandmother would tell me often about comparison. She says, I speak to her twice in a week. So she says something like, women tend to compare everything. And she said,
Yes.
the worst thing they compare is men. So that's why women they're not recommended to have more than one relationship. Because
Mm.
when you have had a boyfriend, when you have had somebody in your life, it's just a natural psychology of a woman. She may say it, some women may say it and ruin their marriage or relationship. Some women will not say, but it's in the mind. Always a
Mm.
comparison. Oh, he would buy me flowers. He would take me out more. He was, I don't want to go on too many details here. Maybe some of you are not
Mm.
married, but you can get an idea of all sorts of comparison. So that's why women are recommended to take care of themselves so that they make better choices. That's actually the second secret. I'm going to come to that shortly. So the point is this: if we learn to not compare ourselves, who we are with who others are, it gives us the ability to not compare the situations and everything. So it begins with accepting our flaws, our weaknesses, our limitations, starting from the color of our skin to the whatever it is, the texture, the height, the weight. I think weight is a big one. Accepting ourselves for who we are, and then starting from there. Because if we start from the point of, oh, I'm not good enough, I need to change, it's very difficult to make the change happen. And she was that example for me, that she wouldn't care what others said, but she would have that self-esteem. So she wouldn't compare herself with other people. Yeah. Okay, we'll go to the second secret. You have any comment about it, Toshani?
Well, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, as a woman, we always compare ourselves from every aspect in my life. I can think of when I had this mentality of like, oh, I need this because I need a better car because that person has a better car. I mean, it's like a doctor's type of mentality that I was brought into, that as soon as you start working, you have to have a better car, a better house, a better clothes, everything. And I can also agree with the point of comparing a partner. Like, I mean, growing up, we always have like this person who worships you or loves you, and you know, what's it called? Pet love? No, puppy love. There we go. Puppy love, teenage love, or rather. And if I think about it now, I'm like, oh, why isn't my husband doing this? Like, you know, like my previous, you know, childish love. But and it's not healthy for my relationship. And I told him this as well. And I was like, yeah, I can see why having one specific relationship is so important, and to focus on that relationship and not to compare any, besides relationships, not to compare anything. Because if you live in comparison, you can't develop yourself, because you're always like competing on another person's wavelength, on another person's track. They're going at one speed and you're going at another speed, and you're like, but I need to go there. You know, I need to be like that person, because we're all different.
And you know, there's two things that came to my mind when you're saying that. One is this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It speaks about comparison. And interestingly, Bhagavatam actually encourages us to compare.
Okay.
Actually, Bhagavatam says this is how we should compare. It says, when you Anukroshan Gunadamat, I can't remember exactly the full verse, but Gunadamat Anukroshan, yeah. Gunadamat Anukroshan means if we find somebody who is Gunadamat, means lower in quality than us, somebody who is less than us. Anukroshan, then we should compare. We should see, oh, this person has less, whatever it is, right? Maybe less clothes, maybe less maybe let's say weaker husband, or a aggressive husband, whatever it is, right? You see that, and then we have to feel anukroshan, means we have to feel compassion for that person and say, oh Krishna, thank you, you've given me this situation, and pray for that person, wish for that person to gain strength to overcome that. And then gunadikan mudam lipset. So Bhagavatam says, very interesting, right? Gunadikan. Gunadamat is a little easier, you know. Oh, somebody has less than us. Oh, poor them. It's kind of easier, right? But when somebody has more than us, then Bhagavatam says, Mudam lipsed. We have to respect them. We have to learn from them. We have to see what qualities has given them that, and admire them for that, respect them for that, serve them for that. So Bhagavatam says we should compare. And if we find somebody on an equal level, then we have to make friendship. So comparison in itself is not condemned in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's just that there is a way to compare and what end result will we gain from that comparison? If we see, like, my grandfather used to say, this is my father's father. He was a pure devotee. He used to say, my mom would compare sometimes and say, oh, they have a bigger house. And my
Mm,
grandfather would say, yeah, but you're not seeing that he also has blood cancer. You want the bigger house, but you don't want the blood cancer. So when you compare, we usually become blind, right? Like you were saying about
mm,
comparing with our, say, the previous partner or something. Oh, he was so much more, I don't know, whatever, rich or something. But then we are not seeing that, yeah, but he was also smoking. I'm just giving an example.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So we don't want to bring the point that is going to make us lose the case. We only bring the point that make us, appear like we will win the case.
Mm,
So that's the point. Yeah, Bhagavatam says we should compare, but we have to compare it in a wise way, the Bhagavatam way, the Krishna conscious
mm.
way. Oh, somebody has better than us. Oh, they deserve it because I trust Krishna gave them because they deserve it, and be happy for them. Wow.
My gosh, this is actually like so powerful. I love how you always take the positive of like a word or an action, and you find both the negative and the positive, and then you just support it by Shastra. I wish I could do this. But I like this. I like this point that you made, because I've heard it a few times about comparison. Also, like how we get association. We should actually be a bit judgmental of how we get association. We need to identify who's higher than us and who's lower than us. And for the lower people, you pray for them and you hope that they come up to your level. And then for those that you see senior, then you can always go to them for advice. So it's important to judge them,
Yes.
but exactly what you said, like how you do it
Yes.
should be in a way of growing and healing rather
Yes.
than of hurting yourself or harming the other person. So
Right.
thank you for bringing that up.
Comparison, like, see, comparison, it's discrimination. Bhagavatam is giving this discrimination, right? If we don't discriminate that, oh, this person is this person's association is not so good for me because, you see, their level is there. If we cannot do that, then we can mess up our life.
Mm.
And if we cannot recognize this person is more advanced than me, then we cannot take advantage, because we cannot force ourselves to be in this hermit mood or a mood of a sadhu, everything is equal, right? We cannot act like uttama adhikaris that everything is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So we need, at least they say, like even a diksha guru can be a madhyam adhikari because discrimination is necessary and
Mm.
level. Yeah. So don't compare um, unfavorably. Like, don't compare yourself uh, to hurt yourself, to end up hurting yourself. That's why I have the subtitle there. Don't compare is just the main topic, but the main thing I want you to remember is, don't burn your hut looking at others' palaces.
I like
This
that.
is
Okay.
more. This is more the key. This is more the principle that I want to share today. So we'll go to the next point. Hmm. The next point is about chastity. Whoa, there's so much I've been learning. I'm studying about chastity because I'm working on this quintessential project. And so this thing from my grandmother that I've learned is this. Um, we're going to the secret number 2. If a
Yes.
woman feels good about herself, then she's chaste. What does that mean? It means when we feel good about ourselves, when we have that connection with the higher self, and we know what's good for us, what's not good for us, then we will make the best choices. We won't choose that abusive guy. We won't run around guys who are not into us and try to get his attention and somehow or another get him to be involved with us, even if he is not really into. All those things are a byproduct of being able to feel good about ourselves. That's and then, like, my grandmother, even though she was in a very painful situation, she wasn't choosing pain.
Mm.
She was
That's
always
like
choosing.
amazing.
That's the ability to make right choices in any given circumstance. When everything is against you, everything is making you miserable, to still choose happiness, to still choose surrender. True. That's actually the third secret I'm going to get into, how she managed doing that. So I want to share a few points about this chastity aspect. So when I say what does it mean feel good about ourselves, this is actually a very modern concept, right? Like there are some people that, like when I give some talks or something, some people become very angry with some principles that I bring up, because again, what I try to do is I try to apply principles that worked hundreds of years ago, but then give a relevant meaning to it, not just try to blindly follow Vedic principles in a non-Vedic time and get messed up, because a lot of people do that. You see, the let's take one very famous popular principle, right? Oh, you should only be with one man, you should only love one man, be with one man, and you should never ever look at any other man. That's chastity, right? Nonsense. You know why? Because when you hear this message, maybe you already had 5 different boyfriends. What are you going to do with that, listening to that principle? It's going to harm you more than help you, isn't it? Because that's not the principle, that's a detail. The principle is actually to listen to your own feelings, to accept your feelings, and to act in accordance with what is going to be good for you. That's the principle. Then if you do that, then you'll end up with the right guy, and that's actually a result of that principle. So
Mm.
this
I
this
remember
thing.
you actually you wrote about this in one of your books about chastity and how preserving that energy of chastity brings you a good husband. I think it was in one of your books, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's not about, oh, a woman is chaste if she's never had a relationship in her life. That's not the principle at all. It's misapplied, right? It's thrown at you
Mm-hmm.
like these snowball fights. This Prabhupada said this, Bhagavatam says this, Manu Samhita says this, like a snowball fight.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't understand the essence of that principle. The essence of this principle is to make right choices. And my grandmother was that good example. No matter what's going on, crazy chaotic stuff around her, she somehow developed that ability to make right choices for herself, and therefore she's considered chaste. Because chastity is not like, it doesn't mean some woman who's never had a man doesn't mean she's chaste. Maybe she's still making wrong choices, and you know what I'm saying, right? Even if,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, yeah, I mean, maybe this is a controversial statement I'm going to make now, but like, if you take a woman who is stuck to a super toxic abusive relationship all her life,
Mm-hmm.
and she tries to follow this blindly, this principle, oh, you should be with one man and that's what is chastity. But if she is making wrong choices every single day of her life and giving herself pain and torture, and she's not feeling good about herself, and therefore she's time and again giving giving to this giving herself to this man who is really um, offending her, okay, time and again, and she's taking that and considering herself chaste, she may need some lessons on chastity. Because again, if you go back and study chastity, it's something much more deeper, profound. It's that ability to make the best possible decisions for yourself. That's what chastity is. And that's actually the quintessential project to redefine chastity and go back and see actually what they meant. And she see what happens when we are able to do that. We will trust life more. We will trust ourselves more. And you know what's the end result? We will trust our man more,
Really
because
interesting.
because we cannot start with the you cannot start with the, oh, I want the fruit in the tree and then I'll think about the leaves and the branches and the trunk and the roots. No, you have to
Mm-hmm.
start from the roots. The man is the fruit in the tree, you can say, or the leaves in the tree if you want to compare the fruits to the children. So you can't say I want a very lushy green tree if your root is rotting. And the root is that self-esteem. The root is that trust that you have with yourself, that self-respect. So if you have that, then the trunk consists of what you're able to create with your self-esteem. And that trunk is what you're able, like that capacity for a good relationship, the receptivity to attract the right man, the receptivity to deal with the right man. My dear Vaishnavis, it's not only about attracting the right man, it's also about keeping the right man. So if you don't know how to keep a right man, what's the point? So then it's the relationship itself. It's like how you're able to deal with the man, how you're receptive to the man. And again, that comes again, this point, if we have had previous relationships, it can become an obstacle to be receptive to the man, because we have samskaras of a certain kind of relationship, certain kind of experience, some pleasant, some unpleasant. But the women mind always likes to compare with the pleasant. Oh, I got it there, why I'm not getting it here? So that sincerity in being receptive, that intent of receiving from the man, that's what is the whole feminine energy. That's what is the whole essence of that feminine energy. How receptive can she actually be? How much she can actually enjoy the relationship? Oh yeah, there's a whole thing about enjoyment, right? We think enjoyment is bad or wrong. I was just reading, there was this Vedanta Sutra verse that I found. It's so awesome. I'm just going to read this. I wasn't planning to share this, but I thought the enjoyment came up here. Though the Lord is satisfied in himself, he has a desire to enjoy because of the desire of the devotee. What is the desire of the devotee? To give Krishna enjoyment. Similarly, the liberated jiva has desires for enjoying what is given as the mercy of the Lord. Because of his bhakti to the Lord, accepting enjoyment to please the Lord.
Wow.
So my dear Vaishnavis, this is the essence of Krishna consciousness, to choose happiness, to choose joy, because that's what Krishna wants us to be and do. Be happy, enjoy life, enjoy Krishna conscious life. And to be able to do that, we need to love ourselves. We need to have that self-esteem that helps us create a life, create family, create relationships that makes us flourish, nourish, and receive and receive. Because woman is all about receptivity. We receive. Okay. Any last things about this before we move to our third secret?
I just want to ask if this is related to, in some way, because you've studied psychology and you know the human mind and you know energy, you understand karma, but and also there's some scars that people get from relationships, from scars of relationships. Do you think that certain women, after being in an abusive relationship, after leaving that relationship, they attract the same sort of why do they attract the same relationship again? Is this somehow related to her own mentality, or is it also, I mean, I know karma is involved, but I mean, it's like, I've seen it so many times where a woman is married to someone who's abusive and her father was also abusive to her mother. And then when she leaves this relationship, she attracts another abusive man. So
that's so true. Yeah, it's actually a combination of factors, Tashani. It's all these things you mentioned. See, when we say psychology is basically a byproduct of karma. Because of certain karmic samskaras, certain karmic choices we've made, certain karma we have to have certain kind of parents, certain kind of partners, then it's reflected in the psychology. So say for example in astrology, okay, a woman doesn't have enough feminine power, which means she doesn't actually feel good about herself. She really has low self-esteem issue. So you can label that psychologically. You can label that, oh, she has codependency issues. She is what else we can say, even depressive. She has this depression. She has all these names we can give to her mental state, right? But ultimately there was some misuse of energy that this individual may have done in the past that gives them this tendency, you see. And then we end up in a perfect situation with the perfect dysfunctional family that It makes us go through that. And then we get, like you said, the wrong partner. The wrong partner is also part of that wrong, the bad karma. So then it all comes together, and then we get kind of, you can even say, we get trapped into that particular relationship. Then you see what trapped is all these different factors: the abusive father, the tendency to be no self-esteem, the previous experiences. So you kind of, all these come together and catch hold of that person. It's not one thing, it's so many different factors. Now, the point about the beauty of Krishna consciousness is we have free will, in case you didn't hear that before. So free will is a major part in the story, right? Because you can say it's this thumb finger. If only we allow ourselves to let karma grasp us, let the parental situation, let the depression, let the codependency, if we only allow all that, is when we really get trapped. So free will is so powerful. That's actually the point of this book, Awaken Your Spiritual Destiny. It's all about the free will and how the modes try to control us. This picture is like an artist. I really, really like this. This is one of my favorite drawings I have for this book. You see, this is where the three modes are attacking the person. And the person, depending on the free will they exercise and the discipline and the practice and the desire, etc., they will either overcome or be influenced by it. And it's very complex. You can see this beautiful drawing of the complexity of the three modes of material nature.
Wow, who did the drawings actually? I was looking at them earlier and I was very...
Russian artist, he passed away actually. He passed away. His name is there in the...
Oh, is it Jagannath Kirtan Das? No.
No.
Oh, artwork, Sanatan Rupa Das, Sham Art.
Yeah, Sanatan Rupa Prabhu.
Beautiful. But
yeah, it's a complex situation. It's not a simple answer, but one step at a time. If we can work on one thing at a time and not be too heavy with ourselves. It's not, now we don't have to beat ourselves up and say free will. That's the thing. Sometimes, like my grandmother, she was that individual that, okay, all these things are going to grab hold of me. I'm still going to choose to take shelter of Krishna. I'm still going to choose to pay obeisances. I'm not going to let the pain overtake my life. I'm not going to allow this miserable environment to rule my heart or my mood. Wow. You see, so she couldn't change external circumstances. She couldn't change her husband. She couldn't change her mother-in-law. She couldn't change different circumstances. But what she had control over was her own, where she will take shelter. And she took shelter in the Bhagavatam. She's read Bhagavatam several dozens of times. So what she would do, she was not allowed here, she was not allowed there, whatever. So she would get the brother to bring a book for her. And so she would sit. Fortunately, she was illiterate. I am so against people who say women should remain illiterates. Oh God.
People say this? People are still saying this? What?
In ISKCON, please beware, women. There are people saying, don't get educated, you don't have to study. So,
well, I'm stunned. I can't say anything because I'm like, what?
No, because maybe sometimes they have this dysfunctional thinking. Maybe they had a mother who was illiterate. So they want their wives to be illiterate so that the wife doesn't think for herself, because maybe the man doesn't feel manly enough to guide her if she's illiterate or if she's educated. So then they may choose a woman who's like that. It's okay to choose a woman who doesn't read or write, but if I'm talking to a woman, I would say, oh, if you have a choice, don't choose that, not chaste or Vedic. Yeah, it's not like that. There are Gargi was a very famous scholar, back in the times of Ramayana. She knew how to read and write scriptures and be a guru. Okay, so we can move to the point number 3, okay? The secret number 3. Okay.
Okay, it's coming up.
Indifference. This is something simple, but not easy. Indifference towards situations. Because when we are indifferent, we don't have too much expectations. That's my grandmother. She is so adaptable, but she's fixed on taking shelter of Krishna, but she's adaptable to situations. Oh, this fellow loses temper, he says something, the other one does this. She is indifferent. And she takes shelter of the eternal things. You know, one thing you can see even today, my grandmother, she'll be in a room of all my cousins and my uncles in a room. And we're all talking about coronavirus or whatever, right? We're talking about different things. She's there with her book reading. She doesn't get involved. Oh, which cousin earns how much? Which cousin, what they did? She doesn't get into those things. She has this indifference towards what's happening around, all the details that she doesn't actually have an influence over.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, you see, there are two things, Toshani. One thing, she doesn't take pride in whatever is happening. Oh, my grandchild did this, did that. And therefore, when things are not going so well, she's not suffering either.
Interesting. Bhagavad
See,
Gita talks about this as
sorry?
yes, yeah. Bhagavad Gita also talks about not being happy or distressed.
So
Amazing.
Krishna says tolerate happiness and distress. Tolerate distress, okay, I can kind of see the relevance why I need to do that. Tolerate happiness, why do I do that? Why should I do that? Why should I not
Yeah.
happiness? Enjoy the happiness. No, Krishna says tolerate happiness. That's
Mm.
my grandmother. I can really see her do that. She tolerates happiness and therefore she's
Wow.
easy tolerating distress. She doesn't get excited. You'll never see her,
Mm.
yeah, excited. She's always like,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah. And that's
I
why
want to
she,
meet her.
yeah. I was thinking to get her live on a program. She lives
Wow.
in the US, so the timing is a bit difficult to adjust the time, but maybe I can do a recording and then she can speak
Yeah.
Hindi, she can speak English a little bit, but not so much, but she speaks Kannada.
Mm.
So yeah, she is that example of somebody who is so composed, adaptable, and she's into her learning, reading. 1 minute she'll say, oh, so you're doing well, you have a house, you have a job, very good. She goes back to reading, you know. She's so cute. It's kind of my dream to be like her when I grow old, you know, gracefully aging, gracefully to. And you know, that's actually going back to the first point of not comparing. I guess it gives her the ability because she knows what is her area of comfort and what is her area of nourishment. So she's going there, and therefore, other things are not affecting her so much.
Mhm.
Whatever the other things are, like for example, okay, she would love to live in India, but she can't control that situation. She was even telling me the other day on the phone, oh, those days were so nice, you know, when we were living in Bangalore. It was so nice. But immediately she switches to what she is, where she is. Because now she sometimes goes from one son's house to the other. And they all live in America. So she goes from one house to the other. So she's kind of become American thing, go here, go there. Whereas if she was in India, she would go to the temple, which was in the road. And you can imagine, you know, she
Mm.
needs, women in that age need that kind of situation. Go to go to a lecture, go to some sadhu sangha, go for a bhajan, and
Mm.
they're not ISKCON people, so you can imagine the difficulty is multiplied. They're Madhvas, you know, they're Vaishnavas, but they're not ISKCON. So thanks to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Um, yeah, I guess the secret number 4 is connected to secret number 3. It's like the
So I
two.
put that one up as well.
Yeah, we can put the secret number 4. Secret number 4 is like the other side of the coin of the secret number 3. So she's indifferent to the situation. So what does she do? Therefore, she focuses on things above. She focuses on what's eternal. I mean, that's like the real queen mood, I say, in Krishna consciousness, that a woman always focuses on what's eternal and doesn't focus on what's the difficulty right now. I am thinking of Queen Kunti. She wasn't focused so much on the difficulty because she had difficulty all her life. She wasn't focused on that. She was focused on the eternal things. She was focused on Krishna. She was focused on prayers, taking shelter. So this number 3 and number 4 are two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Indifference towards situations and focusing on things about, focusing on eternal things. Anything comes to your mind about that, Tushani?
I was just, somebody asked on Facebook about the quote from the verse that you recited. Just, I can't find their question anymore. I think it was the one about comparison. The
Yeah.
Gunatama, if you know where it's from.
Oh, I love that verse. Every time I think of that verse in every situation, I feel like it's so relevant, it's so applicable. Because whenever I become disturbed, whenever my mind goes here and there, that's the first thing I ask myself, you know. Are you comparing yourself? Why are you feeling miserable? It's 5:18:12.
Okay, I'll just type it in for them.
Oh, wait. Let me just see. I can paste it maybe. No, it's not that one. Sorry.
That's not that one?
The other one. It's another one. Mudam lipsed. Gunadikan mudam lipsed. Okay, it's 4:8:32. Feeling miserable. It's 5:18:12.
Okay, let me just type it out. Okay, cool. Then there was another question. I don't know if I should read it now or but it's about how does the principle of indifference and compassion go together? At the surface, they seem to be contradictory. I like the question, actually.
Okay, can you also put it there?
Yeah, it's under the chat here.
Oh.
I don't. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, I'll send it to you directly.
No, okay, it's okay.
Oh, you mean like on the screen?
No, actually, I realized that in Zoom, by the way, technical advertisement mode, in Zoom, when we go through the StreamYard, then we are able to switch and post things. But when we're doing direct Zoom, then we're not able to see those things. In case you're looking for a technical advice on how to use Zoom. Okay, the advertisement ends there. We'll get back to our point here. Question: how does the principle of indifference and compassion go together? At the surface, they seem to be contradictory. Very good question. Yes, that's true. It does seem contradictory on the surface. Even my Shiksha Guru always says indifference, indifference. Indifference, again, is the reflection of that verse where Krishna is saying, tolerate happiness, tolerate distress, right? So, indifference to what you want, how you want things to be, or what you want that should happen. I want this, I want to get into this college, I want to get this much salary, I want to get married to this kind of a man, I want a particular reaction from this person, I want this, I want that. All these things is all attached to that expectation. But if we are indifferent, oh, they like me, they don't like me, he rejected me, he said something rude, all these things, ultimately, who does this hurt? The ego.
Oh, the ego.
It hurts the ego, right? So it's just the 3-letter word, ego. So when we say be indifferent, it basically means being indifferent to the reactions of our ego. So doesn't mean you become indifferent if somebody is like bleeding or something. Somebody, like today I was working with a devotee, and there was a problem with his family. One of the family members was bleeding, and so he got a call and he had to rush back home. So he's not going to say, no, I'm going to be indifferent, right? I'm going to be indifferent, I'm not going to go. So it's not that, that's not the indifference, the meaning that I'm trying to present here today. So the meaning of indifference, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, according to Bhagavad Gita, according to Krishna's teachings, indifference means indifference to the tantrums of the ego, indifference to what the mind dictates, indifference to what the mind says we need in order to be happy. So when we can do that, then compassion becomes an intrinsic part of that indifference. Because of compassion, we become indifferent to the ego. Because it's actually the point, this question can be reversed in another way. And then you actually see the other side of reality, that when you are not compassionate, that's when it's hard to be indifferent. You see?
Oh, wow.
That's
Okay.
actually that's actually the let's say the essence of that verse of the Bhagavatam also. If we are compassionate with somebody who is having less than us, right? It's easy to be indifferent. It's easy to not become proud, you see, because pride is a quality of the ego. So
Yeah.
when we see somebody who doesn't have as much as us and has less, the ego will enjoy. The ego will look and say, "Ha, you see, I'm doing better. You know, like my book sold better than them. You see." And then the ego feels enjoyment, and that means I failed in the test of being indifferent. You know, I mean, like even just today, Toshani. Oh God, I'm gonna do a confession here. Even today, when we started talking offline, and then we're saying how our talks are doing pretty good. This people really like this conversations where we're speaking about relevance of women. And when you're saying that, naturally there's that side of the ego. There was a fight. Am I going to be indifferent to that fact, right? Or am I going to feed my ego and say, hey, we're doing one of the top three, that's not bad. So that's the nature of the mind, that's the nature of the ego, right? So then if I apply that Bhagavatam principle, that verse of the Bhagavatam, gunadamat anukroshan and gunadikan mudam lipset, then that it will bring me to that indifference of I'm let's say these talks are not number one on the YouTube, on our YouTube, or on our Sangha, on the ladies Sangha is not number one. Therefore, I could compare and torture myself. That's again, the Bhagavatam gives me the remedy. Guna Damat, Mudod Lipset. So there are other videos which are doing better. I mean, this I'm giving you as an example for your own Facebook pages, for your own projects. You will always find somebody who is doing better than you, right? And you'll always find somebody who's not doing as well as you. So if we apply this principle, then compassion becomes an interest. It's the heart of this. Feeling compassion. Oh, Krishna is giving this. Oh, the others, they don't have it. And then we become compassionate. We become prayerful. We don't become proud. And then, oh, somebody is doing better than me. Feel happy for them. Then we become liberated with that comparison. So there's no contradiction if we apply Bhagavatam principle. If we apply materialistic principle, yes, there's contradiction.
I mean, I hear my husband talks about this. He says that with his devotee, when he was a brahmachari, with his brahmachari friends, they used to always compare like who's doing better service. But if somebody did like great service, or Sankirtan went out and sold out a lot of books, they'd be so happy for them, and they would be inspired to go out more. And I was like, yeah, but how do you not get this competitive spirit? And he's like, yeah, but when you're happy for the other devotee, immediately you feel happy, and when you pray for them to do better, also you do better, and then so you get benefit from it. It's such a different mentality to the material outlook of things is like always competitive, comparing yourselves in such a in an egotistical way that is almost damaging to your spiritual life. But when he said this to me, I was like, I've never even thought of like spiritual competitiveness, but in such an enlivening way, where you enliven the person who's beating you. You know, it's
Actually, this Toshani brings to mind, Prabhupada says like, oh, women are less intelligent. You know that famous quote. I think this, what you just shared now, is an example of why it's harder for women, because we are naturally, like, just physiologically, psychologically, we have this challenge. We have so many other gifts, but we do have this challenge. For men it's little easier, they don't have that kind of comparison. We tend to compare with every single thing, strand of hair to the shape of the eyebrow to the length of the hair to, right, size of the waist. For men it's not so complicated. I mean, I'm saying beginning with that and then we can go to any extent. But for men it's, oh, wait a minute, there's this race, okay, and I'm here, somebody is here, this is the goal, I'm going. So materialistic men, for them is like, who is ahead? They don't care about details. Women get caught in details, so therefore they also do better in that sense. No, ruthless, go forward. But when in spiritual life, when men are told, look, this is your goal, and actually it's not geographical, it's your intention. If you make Krishna win in every circumstance, if there's more service done by anybody, but if you're happy for it, you win. They just take that principle,
I
and they're just
know.
like, oh, here I
Amazing.
go. They go, and then somebody did it. They remember, oh, my victory is in rejoicing their progress, and therefore they also make advancement. So
I
men,
know.
they just, they are really lucky in this aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, they just follow it so easily. For me, it's like, oh, okay, I have to think about it, maybe, and then I catch myself in this, this way of comparing myself and like being competitive, and like it's such a weird little thing. And I speak to my husband about it, and he's like, oh, just let it go. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
we
just
women,
move
we don't.
on. Snap out of it, move on, get out, get from there.
Maybe
That's
it's
what
just
we
me. I
need.
don't know.
That's why we need Sadhvi Sangha, because we can relate to each other's problems. We can relate to why we get stuck, right? Why we get stuck in comparison, why we get stuck in this. When you were saying about that, I was thinking something else we do also. Oh, yeah, we also have this tendency to live in the past. Men don't usually do that. Men are more like, focus on what needs to be done. And women tend to kind of get stuck in the past. Oh, I should have done that. I should have said this. It's like Brahmabhuta Prasannatma, na shochati, na kankshati. We do both. Krishna says, don't lament, don't hanker. We do both, right? So that's why I think when Prabhupada says women are less intelligent, I think, oh, yeah, sometimes for this aspects, we need to work harder. We need to kind of get ourselves more nourishment. So should we do the last? Let's see what's the question. There's a question.
Yeah, so the question is from Facebook, and Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my obeisances. Surrendering onto Krishna and accepting the abusive relationship is better, or surrendering onto Krishna and walking out of a relationship is, which one is better for the self-esteem?
Is rice and dal which has gone cold better, or khichdi which is not cooked properly better? What do you
Ooh,
think, Darshani?
I would go for the rice and dal that's gone cold. I don't
Hmm,
know.
maybe I would go for a khichdi. Okay. No, the question is basically a very delicate question.
Mm.
It cannot be um, underestimated, or it's not an answer that can be given in an insensitive way. It's not an answer which is black or white. It's not about one shoe size fits all. I'm thinking of my grandmother. She was in a terrible situation, abusive mother-in-law. Wow. She didn't walk out. But if somebody else was in a similar situation, and I don't know how she felt about the husband. I mean, they have 5 children, so that must have said something about their intimacy level, at least to have 5 children, right? But she actually,
Mhm.
bedroom. They were not changing clothes in the
Sorry,
same
you
room.
just paused for a moment. I don't know if it was my side or your side.
Maybe it was.
Um, I heard that you said they had 5 children. Their intimacy was probably good, and then you came back when you started saying the
I
same
was
room.
saying they were not staying. Like she was staying in a different room. She would sleep separately. She's always slept on the ground, like just with a thin bamboo mat, and she never used a pillow. She would say, Krishna has given me this. Why do I need a pillow? So she always used this to use for the sleeping. Always,
I,
all my life, I've
I,
seen.
this is amazing because this way of sleeping is actually the best for people's postures. You know, bed is overrated, pillows are overrated. So your grandmother is clearly she's understood life and its essence entirely.
You see,
I love it.
Vaishnavi, this is a doctor's advice. Darshani is a doctor and she knows what she's talking about. Yeah, yeah, many things about her. She's quite together in that. So she always slept on the floor. But my grandfather slept on the bed. So he had his room, he had his comfortable bed, and she would sleep on the floor.
Interesting. I
Okay, where
could
did
never
we
do
go?
this.
So, I mean, no, actually, by the way, just for whoever asked the question about abusive relationships, this
Mhm,
was nothing to do with abuse because she wasn't thrown out there to sleep on the mat. It was her by choice.
mhm, mhm.
So I think my grandmother really, in Hindi, I don't know how many of you understand Hindi. There's this word, there are 2 words, tap. Tap means austerity, tapa. That's the first word that Brahma got revelation, tap, tap. So he did tapa to.
Oh, Sri, you've paused. Let's see if it's paused on Facebook. Yes, it was. I heard tapa, and the second word?
The second word is tadap. Tadap is a Hindi word. Tadap is a very pain. It's tadap is like feeling miserable, feeling desperate, feeling
Mhm.
anxious. Okay, so there's only one letter difference between tap and tadap. Tap, tadap. And my grandmother always had this option to choose between tadap and tap. Tadap means tadapna in Hindi. I mean, those of you understand Hindi can understand this. Tadap tadap kar marna. It's like you know, to feel suffocated, to feel desperate, and to like such a point of misery and death. It's like how Pandavas were put into difficulties again and again, and Kunti was feeling that tadap, every time anxious. Oh, when they'll try to kill Bhima again, that anxiousness. So that's there in an abusive relationship, that's there, right? And for my grandmother it was there, but there was not like any beating or physical abuse. Okay, in that case she was lucky, but it was mostly the mother-in-law's abuses, emotional abuse, you can say that. She was definitely in an emotionally abusive relationship and she wasn't supported, etc. But she chose to stay, of course. Now she was my grandfather passed away some years ago. She's there. But the thing is, it's not one shoe size fits all.
Mhm.
Every case has to be studied individually. What is your reason for staying? What is your reason for quitting? So the quitting or the staying may itself not be the path that's going to liberate you. The motivation behind which you do it is what will either liberate you or bind you more. Okay, in some cases I'm thinking, like in my grandmother's case, probably there was a lot of karma, some karmic baggage, that she decided, okay, I'll pay the debts through this, because sometimes you have to pay the debt. And you have to see your own mental status. Can I pay the debts in this situation? And be practical, be wise, talk with the right people, right? And talk with a few people who can give you different perspectives. Don't get too extremes, you know, this is Vedic and you should never divorce, can be a one extreme. And then, oh, I'm in an emotional abusive relationship, you know, I don't feel good with this guy, you know, I just want to find another guy. So that's also another extreme that can ruin your life. So the proper balance to really see, um, is this relationship harming you so much that you have lost your will to live? But then the next question comes, do you really have a better option? Or are you jumping from a frying pan to fire? Many women sometimes jump from a frying pan to fire. They um, jump from a difficult relationship to, say, an affair. Like, say they're having a difficult marriage, and then they say, oh, I need this other relationship, you know, because I'm so suffering. This man or this woman is not giving me happiness. So they enter into a affair or some unhealthy relationship. And then after that's enjoyable or pleasant for exciting for a year, maybe maximum, if you're lucky, or unlucky either. And then things really become the same problem that you had earlier, the same exact problems, because then you see that the man is using you, right? So it's a very delicate topic. You have to study it case by case. So many factors are involved. Cannot cannot be cannot be a black and white answer. It's not this or that. It's not whether it's a stale rice dal or it's an uncooked khichdi.
So I mean, I'm just trying to understand from the questioner's point of view, is if you stay in an abusive relationship, and I find this in ISKCON women, that, you know, they stay in it because they think it's their karma. But how I see it is that if they leave, they would be protecting their partner, who is also, I assume, a Vaishnav, because if they're abusing them, then they would be saving them by leaving that relationship. Or is that a
Yes, I
misconception?
mean, what you said does apply in many cases. See, as an astrologer, I have seen for many years there's been two sides, two extremes. Some women really, I am seeing like a screen here, which is, Toshani, are
Sorry,
you
what
there?
did you say?
Ah, okay. Uh, so I was saying, Toshani, that there are two extremes, okay? There are some women who justify uh, staying, they justify that, oh, it's my karma, so I should stay in an abusive relationship because it's their weakness. It's their weakness, and they don't want to take that stand, you know, they don't want to protect themselves, they don't want to, or they may just really be so vulnerable that they don't know what to do after that, and so they're really stuck. Okay, that can be the case. And as you're saying, for those women, what you're saying is very relevant, very applicable, that they need to see it in a way that, look, you are facilitating the abuse. You are giving this man an opportunity to keep abusing you, especially in like physically abusive cases, you know, where when you're feeling really like all your self-esteem is ripped off, right? So, but you have to see the other side of the story, because I've seen the other cases where the word abuse is a little bit exaggerated. You know, the man is having his own limitations, his own issues, so he may get angry or he may just say something in a angry mood, and then the woman is just like, okay, I'm out of this, you know, you're abusive to me. And so I feel like there are two extremes. So again, I wouldn't make like a general statement that will apply to everyone. It'll really depend on your nature, how you're, are you a passive type of person, are you more an aggressive type of person? Because if a woman is more an aggressive type of a woman, even with the meekest guy, she will say he's abusive.
Mm-hmm.
It's
But
very,
I think also it's what you're saying is that, you know, the person has to understand themselves. And what I also think is really important in relationships is just having a counselor or someone to go to before you make decisions. Because sometimes we feel like, oh, this is it. I'm over it. You know, I have to leave. There's no way I can tolerate with it. But what I like about your book as well is that you say if there's challenges that come in your way, first go into a meditative space, meditate about it, seek proper advice, also pray to Krishna about it, and then the answer will come. Because sometimes it's also our own triggers of our own karma that's
yes.
coming up. And fine, we don't have to stay in it, but somehow you can turn it around and you can deal with it quickly and get over it, and then, you know, you don't have to deal with it again, I guess.
Yeah, two things come to my mind as you're saying that. One thing is about self-esteem. It's not, you see, if somebody has a very serious self-esteem issue, um, sometimes, yes, walking out of a very abusive relationship can help, but it's a separate issue. Working on your self-esteem, like that's what I learned from my grandmother. Working on self-esteem is a separate project than dealing with an abusive situation. It may be connected at times, but not necessarily all the time. They have to be treated as two different things. So even if you just walk out of an abusive relationship, don't think that next day, next morning, you will wake up with stronger self-esteem. It'll take a lot of healing. It will take a lot of, like Toshani said, counseling, taking care of those emotions, because you are wounded. Then you need time to recover. You can't just walk into the hospital, get a surgery, and next day wake up and run around, right?
Yeah.
You
Okay.
need time for those stitches to heal and whatever, whatnot. Then another thing, when you were saying, I thought something that came to my mind about, oh God, I forgot. Um, Something about self-esteem. I thought another important point. Okay, maybe it will come to my mind. So let's go to the fifth secret, secret number 5. So don't spill your feminine energy. That's one of my favorite. Is the She would tell me in my mother tongue. So like, don't spill your feminine energy, because feminine energy is fire, right? The Shastra says women are like fire and men are like butter. I always like that expression because I feel like fire is so much more powerful, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always wonder about it when I was growing up. I still don't really understand the expression fully, but go ahead.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm thinking of Draupadi because she was born from fire. It's like, wow, imagine. So, fire. See, women, we have this ability, you know. We dread when we like, you know, one thing, one interesting thing. My grandmother, you saw the picture of hers, right? That's how she goes to sleep. She's wearing a silk sari. She wears a silk sari, and she wears ruby and diamond necklace. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she has yeah, she has this diamond, pure diamonds and rubies around, and she has a diamond and ruby necklace to her neck. And she's a widow, okay, but she wears it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's her. If you want like the description of her beauty, of the feminine energy character, that's her, right? A lot of people will say, no, that's not so Vedic, you know, once the husband is gone, she shouldn't dress up, whatever, right? But she's like, I dress up for the for Paramatma. And she's always been like this, Toshani. I've never seen her like how we usually find ourselves when we get into bed with our pajamas or when we wake up
Yeah, true.
with a scruffy hair and whatnot. No bindi or whatever, no earrings, right? We have this tendency, modern women, we like to take all the jewelry off, and We like to be just with our little shorts and t-shirt. That's right. That's with
Facing
the
out
open
and
hair.
yeah.
The open hair. So my grandmother, I have never seen her like that, and I think even my grandfather hasn't seen her like that.
Really? Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
Forget about shorts because she wouldn't even wear shorts because back then the system was different, right?
Yeah.
It's just the choli, the inskirt, and the sari. And actually, they wouldn't even wear the inskirt. They would tie the sari
Yes, they're not. Yeah.
and sari and
Wow.
blouse. That's it. No other inner garments. No other inner garments.
I really don't.
Okay, so even without all that complications and all that what we consider very sophisticated, right? If we need to wear a t-shirt, we need a certain kind of bra. And if we want to wear a particular choli which has a deep neck, we want a certain kind of bra, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
understand how
So many
women,
different bras just for different outfits.
right? Depending on what we wear. But none of those complications. But in essence, she was always beautifully dressed. I mean, a woman, a good woman is always a good woman, or how do you say, the quintessence, the queen woman, the woman who's in touch with her feminine energy, always attractively dressed. But the word attractive is again very uh, subjective. For my grandmother, if I ask her, Ajji, why are you combing your hair? You're going to bed. And she's like, because Paramatma is in my heart, so I should always be elegant and always be beautifully dressed. And so she always dresses with the silk sari or nice choli. Always her hair is nicely combed, and always she has nice jewelry on her. You know,
Wow.
she says, I'm not dressing to please any other person. I'm dressing to please the Paramatma who's in my heart. So she's always together. But of course, there's also like, see, that's the point, right? When you feel good about yourself, you trust yourself more, then we handle ourselves more in a precious way all the time, not just to please one man or 10 men or 100 people that listen to our lecture. But I'm essentially preaching to myself also here, but to value ourselves as spirit souls where Krishna has decided to reside in our hearts, and therefore to always be elegant, to always dress in a way that's pleasing. Of course, I always ask my grandmother, Achi, is it possible that the Paramatma in your heart wants you to dress in a different way, and the same Paramatma who's in my heart wants me to dress in a different way? Because we have little different tastes, right? And she said, no, dress your age, but remember, don't spill your feminine energy. Don't expose things just to make somebody else attracted to you. Dress in a way that makes you feel good for who you are and not necessarily to get attention from somebody. And this
I
thing about
like that. Don't spill your feminine energy.
don't spill it. Yeah, don't just waste it. Because the more we preserve it, like Toshan, you remember this point that we were discussing earlier. When we preserve that feminine energy, then we can give it to the right man,
Mm-hmm.
and we give it with the right intensity. But if we spill it out, we've used it to attract, then we come home and we look like a demoness, putana, or whatever, right? In front of the man that is supposed to be pleased by your appearance or whatever, we may not have the energy to present ourselves. So that's why my grandmother's principle always works. Always be elegant because Paramatma is in your heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? And don't spill your feminine energy trying to get validation from this person, from that person. Don't try to use your energy giving to this person, trying to fix somebody's problem, somebody else's problem. Don't spill your feminine energy. Keep it, preserve it, so that when the right time comes, you will know what is your duty. You will know who you're supposed to help. It will be very clear to you. Don't run around the community, the country, the nation of the Facebook trying to fix everybody else's problems. No, I'll expose this. Um, what is it called? I even forgot the name. This, different theories. They have, what do you call them? Controversial, no, conspiracy theories. Some women take up some causes, they take up fights that may not be really worth. So that can also be the spilling of feminine energy. I find that the modern day situation where it's a very thin line. Like when we women want to get educated, get a degree, go out there, get that job that's a high paying job, run companies, become CEOs, right? That's day and age we're talking about. It seems that the ability in a woman, because women also, there are Kshatriya women, there are Brahmana women, Brahminical women are more intellectual, they're very scholarly, they write scholarly books and they write, they get into scientific world or whatever, right? They have the intellectual ability to learn Sanskrit and compose poems and writing, etc. And then we have Kshatriya women who are more the fighter women, women who can manage everything. And then we have women who are very sharp in making money. So even among women, there are natures, but the point is that intention. When my grandmother was talking about this, I realized that sometimes we may become like CEOs of big company, and essentially what we're doing is just spilling out that feminine energy, and we have nothing left when we come home. We're drained, we are exhausted, and we have no ability to enjoy and be receptive to the love that the man has to offer. And some women don't even get married in the right time, they just wait to go higher in career, and then they miss out on the all that age of where they want to have that intimacy and have that family life. So they kind of put wrong priorities. Then, where did we spill that feminine energy? To some big corporate company, which that fellow made millions and billions of dollars, and I got paid whatever little for a monthly thing. And you see what I'm trying to say? So it's a very subtle principle. Where we are spilling our energy, with whom we are spending time, what is our intention? It can be a very deep lesson. I'm planning to work on this particular lesson on don't spill your feminine energy for quintessential. It's like a whole chapter dedicated to that. I want to mention a little bit about, so when a woman doesn't have that I feel good about myself, the self-esteem or lack of chastity in my dictionary, then because she doesn't have that positive self-image, therefore she has all the characteristics to bring her to situations or circumstances that will leave her feeling miserable, leave her feeling betrayed, and feel bad about herself. I don't know if this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So even though she has a feeling, she won't listen to it. An unchaste woman, she has a feeling. Something tells her, don't date this guy, don't go behind this man, don't try to get attention of this person, work on yourself, take care of your health, work out, eat healthy, focus on your things. There's an inner voice, and when a woman doesn't listen to her inner voice, when a woman doesn't listen to her higher self and falls for that lower self message, and that's when she's spilling her feminine energy.
I
Is
like
that
this point actually. It's, I mean, um, I guess for myself, as a woman working in a mostly dominated sort of male dominated area.
share yourself? See you.
Is it not showing me? Okay, I'll just click it. I mean, when I work in a male dominated area like the emergency medicine unit,
Yeah.
it's like, being in charge, giving orders to people. And I was reading, I don't know where it was, but it says that if you associate more with this male energy, then you lose that ability to listen to yourself, like your intuition. And that's like a key aspect of being woman, is like having this inner guidance, this higher intelligence, access to this intuition that we have available to us. And the more we listen to it, I guess the more we activate that feminine energy, maybe.
Oh yeah, it's so true. That's actually, it's very nice. Maybe you can send me something, anything you have about that research, because that will be helpful also for this quintessential chapter. That's a powerful point. Being always in that associate. Oh, actually, oh my God, that brings a lot of puzzle pieces together for me. I was telling you, my grandmother had a separate room, and even going back traditionally, all the ladies had a separate quarters. They had a different section of the house. So everything was done in a different way, because the point is, nobody is asking us to become like the men. Nobody. I mean, no, it's in no way favorable for us, not materially, not spiritually, because the maintenance aspect happens because of the women. And if we also start becoming like the men and want to dominate and be aggressive and get things done only but not maintain things, everything is going to fall apart. And intense association with the male energy, it's like, oh, always be with the man, cling to the man, always wanting to receive from the man. Actually, it's not fair, it's not healthy for the feminine energy, because feminine energy nourishes, how do you say, is nurtured in separation from the man. And then it's when it's blooming, then when they come with the man, then they're able to create beautiful things. So it was never, because you see, traditionally the man was not spending too much time with the woman. This is a modern thing. Oh, my man doesn't spend enough time with me, he's not romantic. That's actually not at all a Vedic idea, because we want to cram in 25 years of romance that our generational grandparents had. We want it all in 6 months.
Mm.
Then the feminine energy is all gone, it's spilled out, there's nothing left. And when we were just clinging onto the dhotis of our husband and saying, why don't you spend more time with me, go be with me, let's do something together, that was
Mm.
not what was traditionally.
Mm.
Traditionally, women were not doing that. They were minding their own business.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've read also articles now that women need to have more of a woman tribe. Like we need more women association, and so I'm so glad that Sadhvi Sangha is developed, is that we can actually create this atmosphere of associating with women and hearing from women and just building this this feminine energy. And I mean, myself, ever since I stopped working so much in the emergency unit, I can feel that I have more feminine energy and more intuition and more access to like this inner voice that tells me, oh, I need to check up on somebody. And I'm like, oh, okay, that person is not doing well, because you have that like
Wow.
intuition, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, intuition. That's what is feminine. Intuition is feminine. Yeah.
there's one more question before we end. I really liked, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's important to mention this. The question is phrased, it's just like the animal body limits the consciousness of that particular jiva, does the female body limit the consciousness of a woman in a woman's body? So, you know, when you mentioned like women are less intelligent, do you think that, is it because of that body that we get our consciousness is sort of limited, or
Oh,
maybe
okay. My understanding is body cannot limit your consciousness. It's not about the body. When Prabhupada is saying women are less intelligent, in no way is he saying about spiritual consciousness level at all, because there are so many evidences. There's so many evidences where Prabhupada is saying that our girls are more intelligent than the boys. And he's saying he wants all the girls and the boys who get the Bhaktivedanta degree to become gurus. And he, in many, many, many places, and I'm sure even in our Sadhvi Sangha, we heard from different Vaishnavis who had direct association of Srila Prabhupada. I mean, like Vishaka Devi, for example, Srila Prabhupada trusted her so much, way more than he trusted most men in the movement. So, no, in no way is our body going to limit our consciousness at all. Rather, my understanding is it's the material aspect. For example, this aspect of detachment, okay? Women physiologically, we are made to produce babies. We're made to, hold those babies in our womb, like part of us. And then when the babies come out, we are um, programmed to be having that nurturing attachment, affection. So all these things kind of keeps us attached to the body, which is not at all negative. Okay, it's the way the feminine energy is made, and it's meant to be. But that creates that attachment to the body, and therefore, as an obvious result of that attachment, we tendentially have this all these qualities we discuss, comparing more. Oh, they have a better stroller for the baby than my baby stroller. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, because everything is connected with that body, everything is coming, whatever is coming from the body, women have that tendency to feel more attachment. Also, you see, in a month, our body is going through so many changes. I saw this wonderful video of a girl that's just showing the mood swings in 1 month. You know how she feels
Yes.
pre-menstrual time, how her mood is during the menstruation, just right after. So it's like such variations, like cycles of the moon,
Yeah.
right? Like the moon, never the same. It's like moon is not always full moon. By the way, today's full moon. It's not always full moon, right? Every day, every day the moon is shrinking, growing. You know, there's like the whole cycle. And moon is feminine. Moon is changeable. Moon is adaptable.
My husband says it's like, there's 4 different types of me because I'm going through the phases and he can see it. So
I mean, even in one day, there are 4 seasons in a woman's mood, right? Not just in Australia, you'll see seasons, but in your woman's mind, you'll see seasons. So the point is, how much we will love Krishna is not dependent on our mood. We can feel miserable and we will be like crying and feeling terrible, and then crying out to Krishna and say, Krishna, why am I feeling this way? Krishna, why don't you give me more strength? You know, that's the consciousness. The consciousness doesn't mean, that's why Krishna consciousness is so beautiful, because it's above the modes. Because sattva guna means being very composed, being very graceful, being very peaceful, right? That's very nice. If you can be that, great. But that's not the point of Krishna consciousness. It's useless. Sattva guna is useless if you don't think of Krishna. But if we are depressed, moody, angry, doesn't matter what, you're angry with Krishna, you're depressed with Krishna, you're moody with Krishna, you're happy with Krishna, that's Krishna consciousness. So consciousness is not affected by your body, but the body does affect our material ability to be detached, to be attached, also on this level of intuition. Like, see, feminine energy is more subtle. We are supposed to do things a little bit in the, let's say, we need to, we not, again, women, men, many men are more feminine than women. Okay, women have more masculine qualities, so depends. But women energy is always taking time. We should take time. We should sleep on things before responding. So consciousness, no, consciousness doesn't necessarily depend on the body, but other things does, as I just explained. I hope that is helpful. And oh yeah, super important point, I can't not mention that we are all women. All the men of this world are also women. There's only one man, and that's Krishna.
Krishna.
Krishna is the only Purusha, and we are all Prakriti. I mean,
We're Prakritis.
we're all feminine. Let's not forget that.
I like that point. I don't know if we have time for this last question. They just want to know if there's any advice to really learn to listen to your inner self and to bring out this intuition, and then how to act on it. Maybe that could be the last point.
Let me know when you find out how to do that.
Okay, well, I guess you have to stay tuned until she creates a new series, and then you can watch what Sri says about this. Then I just want to share, I made a little screen of your 5 secrets from your grandmother. I'll just share it with you, and then maybe you can also, Sri, if you can think of one, maybe one, like sum up your, if you could just give one thing from this topic to somebody, one point of advice, or the, like one liner maybe for this topic of nurturing and preserving your feminine energy, like one aspect maybe.
It would be an answer to this question also, to the degree that I have realization. But again, this would be an interesting topic that we can all share with each other, how to develop that intuition and higher self connection. So what the main thing I would say is understand yourself. Let's understand ourselves and be compassionate with ourselves so that we can lead ourselves to like listen to that higher self, listen to that inner voice. Because if we start from that point of shaming ourselves, blaming ourselves, putting ourselves down, then you're listening to the lower self, which is saying you're not good enough. It's the ego, I should have been great, but I'm not, so I'm depressed. You see, that's how the lower self works. But higher self is all about, this is what it is. Let me see what I can do right now from here, from who I am, what I have right now. And that requires a lot of self acceptance, to say, I am okay as I am. Whatever I am, I'm all my anarthas, all my character defects, but to become open. What was it? I just was today's journaling. Dear Krishna, please help me to become ready to let go of my defects of character. Please help me know in my mind and in my soul that I'm ready to let go of my self-defeating behaviors, the blocks and barriers to my life, and allow your mercy to flow through me.
Wow.
So be kind to yourself. That's the way to connect with your inner self, intuition, and your higher self.
Wow. Thank you, Sri.
Thank you, Tashini.
I always enjoy our talks, and it's so nice to have the association on Zoom or any electronic platform. I think you have another session coming up on the 20. I don't know, have the dates with me now, but there's another session, I think in 2 weeks time, you're doing another talk. So all the Vaishnavis out there, if we didn't get a chance to answer your question, I'm sure we'll answer it on Facebook. And thank you for all of those who did ask questions and who posted it. I will post.
For all of those who are on Zoom right now with us, Nalini Devi is here, Alina is here, Kamalakshi Radhika. So thank you for joining us. So it's so nice to see smiling faces. I really enjoy when I can see Hi, everyone, Nalini. So it's so nice to see you there. So thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. So we'll just end the live stream, but if and we'll continue on Zoom for those who are here. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, everybody. I'll try to unmute you and you can say Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Thank you for joining our live stream. Yeah. Do you have any last words?
The live is done, right? We are now in
Yeah, live
Zoom,
is done.
our
Now we're just in Zoom.
inner
Yeah.
circle. That's
Our
cool.
inner circle.
Yeah, this is like our private after party thing.
Yeah. Somebody said that they couldn't access your maps site from, I don't know where they are, from the US. It didn't work. They couldn't. So, but I don't see her online. Maybe you have another link for your books, or is it just Amazon you use?
I don't know. I don't really have any map site as such. It's actually
It's like a blog, no?
yeah. I don't know why it didn't work.
Yeah, I don't know. It works for me, so I didn't.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear from Alina, Kamalakshi, and Nalini, and I don't know who else is the other because I only see the number and no video. So how was the session? Nalini, you have to unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, can you hear us?
So, Hare Krishna, thank you.
Haribol.
This is a really amazing class, and I think I have to. I mean, I don't know what to say. There's so many times that I thought, oh yeah, I see how this relates in my life, and I made these changes, and I can see in so many ways I've progressed, not just from this class, but from other conversations I've had with you when I was in Mayapur and such. And I have really in the past 4 months, I've really been taking the time to really look at what I'm doing every day. I actually have like a little, I have like a little list of things that I do every day, and it really gives me a time to say, okay, these are what are the things that are important in my day, in my life, in my sadhana. And I've really been, you know, it's helping me to read more, and my japa is better, and my house is cleaner, and so all of these things are really coming together. And from my takeaway from this class today is that, you know, I originally I thought I put in some time, okay, I have to take care of myself, you know, maybe I'll paint my toenails or I'll do something like that, just for my, you know, feminine energy, self-care. And I haven't been doing that quite as much. So it's been, oh, I haven't had time, I have to do this other thing. So I think right now I'm going to try and put it in more of a priority to do that. And it's been, anyways, I just really appreciate your class today. You see, I don't have the earrings on. I don't have my bindi. You know, I'm wearing it, you know, so, but little things. When my mother-in-law was here, I got married a year ago. It'll be a year next week. So my mother-in-law was here, and she's from Jaipur, and she doesn't speak English. But when she was here, I had like, she's like, make sure you wear your bangles every day. You have to wear this, you have to wear this. And so every day I kind of took that time in the morning. And I had this little war on myself. On part of it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much I have to do every day. This is so annoying. But on the other hand, it was kind of nice to sit there and put all these calmly, you know, and oh, okay, just to give a little bit of attention to myself. Actually, on that hand, it was kind of nice. So
yeah, and you know what? One thing I realized, it was actually very hard for me, because I kind of can be very mental and intellectual, whatever. I need like a very solid reason why I need to do this. Why is it good for my spiritual life? So it was always like, it was bothering me. And besides it, my grandmother always said, I'm dressing for Paramatma. And it really did help me, but no, it didn't convince me, because I can be kind of sometimes too logical. I want to see the logic of why you need to put the bindi, why I need to, you know, all this. And I did a whole research that shocked me, and it was like a big blow to my ego. A few things I discovered. Thanks for this, Kamalakshi, you're bringing this up, that it's simple thing. Okay, let me say about the hair. The whole thing, I have even done this whole experimenting. These women, like even my mom, my grandmother, I made like I have like this database of people that I know who follow this thing, that every day they put this center partition and they keep their hair tied together and never let it loose. So I made this whole list of people who do that. And then I made a list of people, including myself, for years, doing the other opposite, right? Letting the hair loose, doing however, right? The thing. And then I studied about this further. What does it mean? What is the whole concept? What was the theory? So the point is this left side and the right side of the brain, it's making the middle partition helps us to have a balance between the two sides of the brain.
Oh my God, you just said blows my mind.
And when you actually tie your hair, like when you bring the hair together, actually this is something I should have mentioned in the talk, because this is, anyway, when you hold your hair to the like together, that's the way that the energy, all the thinking, the thinking, processing, all this energy that goes on in the head stays together. So when we actually let it loose, when the hair is loose, basically we are more we lose focus, We become scattered in thinking. We become impulsive. It's much harder to be grounded, and it's amazing and mind blowing. All the list of people that I made the list, and I checked who follows this, who follows that. Those who followed this, the middle part. I mean, since then I've been trying to do the just to keep my own energy. And I've done the opposite. I have had short hair, I've left my hair open and done that, and I've seen that I feel more tired. When we have, you can experiment for yourself if you want. I'm not saying you have to follow my research, because again, I'm logical. I like to see the proof before I follow. So what happens is when we let our hair loose, it just in my case at least, it was what, 70-80% less energy, even just the whole physical energy, because it just flows out. And that's why they would keep the hair tied and braided nicely. And the more like the hair is like this, the energy is going out through it.
You know, I have to
Yeah.
tell you, you're going to love this point. In Chinese medicine, they have a radiant circuit that goes this around the coronal sulcus. And when you draw this path, what you just said just made so much sense. As Indian women, they're trying to stabilize themselves. And Radharani also always used to wear her hair at the nape of her neck so that the energy can flow down. But because I knew I was
And
coming
they
on
would
here, I
and they would
deliberately
let,
put my hair
and they
up.
would let the hair be, the kundalini thing. It would remain there, and it was braided. So what happens is the energy stays in the body. It will not flow away. And when we are going, driving, whatever, if the hair is going like this, the energy is going out like this.
That's so true. I can't believe how the Indian culture has so many of these things that, our grandmothers, our mothers told us, but we just are like, oh my God, it's, it's so pointless.
But they didn't, I feel like they also didn't explain it with all these reasons. Another thing is also this. When you let your hair loose, I mean, this is like a creepy fact, but the
Oh yeah.
ghosts, the evil spirits, the negative energy, they enter inside easier when you let your hair open, or even, yeah. So when you have it tight, it's harder. And another thing, okay, that was one thing. And then another thing, because I studied a lot, I studied for many years this chakra and healing and crystals and all this. So I studied a lot about the chakra aspects. So this area, this is another thing. Those women who wear bindi, this is the Agya chakra point, right? When you wear it, it's just much easier to stay focused. Of course, if you wear the traditional, those red powder thing, it's better, but anything would still do. It again kind of brings the attention of the mind. The idea is this point should be pressured. Pressured meaning, like, yeah, when you put pressure on this point, the energy again doesn't flow out, but it remains in our face, in our smile. In astrology, there's like a whole explanation about this as well. It's a nakshatra thing where the energy stays, etc. And the same thing also for the ears, the energy center, when it's pierced and when you wear some precious metals there, it activates that energy and it protects from drishti. Drishti is basically the negative eyes of people, right? Men, women, both. And the kajal, oh, that's another thing I learned also. When you put kajal to your eyes, um, like a lusty look or a jealous envy look will not affect you when you wear kajal. Like you stop it right there. It's like people don't get it. And then there's another, I studied more about the bindi thing. They say when you wear a bindi, then when a man looks at you, the attention goes where the bindi is. Because usually the psychology is men usually look at the lips of the woman. That's psychology. But they're supposed to look here. I mean, they're supposed to, or the energy is supposed to go there. So the focus is there. And also so many other aspects. My mom also, when I was a kid, she would, when we were going to school in India, at least they would partition this whole two sides and put 1 and 2.
Yes.
So the idea was that, and that's why we were so focused. The idea was to keep the brain flow, the energy, the thoughts properly balanced and tie it up so that it doesn't flow away.
Wow. Oh my gosh, my whole
And
life
like
makes sense
super
now.
traditional women, even when they plait their hair, they will even fold that and tie it. They will not
Mm.
all that. So I got convinced that even like wearing ankle bells, wearing these metals. First of all, when you wear some good metal, precious metal to your skin, every time you're taking bath, the touch of that and the water, it actually strengthens your pranas. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's also, and then it's also a shield. It's a shield. The woman should never be seen with the naked hand. um, she should always have something, anything. You can just put even um, even beads or whatever, right? Anything there. It again prevents different negative energies from entering you, and your own energies from draining it. It holds the energy. Then what else I was thinking when Kamalakshi was saying about dressing? Mm, I mean, like I realize like some days I give a lot of importance to say, oh, putting makeup or foundation or some things which are unnecessary or not really protective, in other words. But if I can cultivate the habit of doing some of these basic things, I can see the difference. I can
Mm-hmm.
feel the difference. I feel more focused. It's, in other words, it's not only the aesthetics. It's not only, oh, looking feminine and feeling feminine. There is so much science to this. There's so much science behind this whole thing. And that, yeah, Toshini.
No, Kamalakshi also mentioned like painting your nails and stuff. I mean, somebody, I can't remember where, but it was when I was doing Bhakti Shastri, one of the ladies said that doing these things also dissipates the our energy, our lust energy, so that we don't get so lusty. So like doing all these things, I don't know if that makes sense, if you've heard that before.
To me, it would be a little bit opposite, but but
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
but I think it could mean that uh, like instead of just fantasizing, doing something, like Krishna says, action is better than inaction. So maybe sometimes instead of just sitting down and fantasizing, we do something with our body to make ourselves more attractive. That's kind of like how I see it. Or it can also mean that you channel the energies to feel good about yourself, because the whole point is when we want to be loved, when we want to attract someone, the need is there to be appreciated, right? The need is there to get attention. But when we put that same attention on ourselves, like take care of myself, then maybe there is a level of satisfaction that I feel, oh, like certain things we may do, nobody will see except us, right? Some things, I don't know, waxing your legs or painting your nails on the feet or decorating your toenails, whatever, right? Those things, nobody else would see it except ourselves, but it kind of gives us a sense of satisfaction, even if we don't show off to anybody. It kind of brings us that ability to be with ourselves, be centered in ourselves. Because when we're like boyish, I've been through that stage also. When we're kind of boyish, our minds are in the outside. It's not in us. It's these days also I've been trying to bring my mind back to me, and I think these things can help.
Mm-hmm.
But some women are really not into it, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine. But I think for those of us, we want to mm, gather the energy together. For those of us who want to focus, you know, then I think these tools can help us.
Yeah, I mean, when you spoke about how to do your hair, when I'm at work, because it's so high pressure and it's like, fast moving, I always put my hair like up, even when I have a meeting, I bundle it so I can think like um,
Oh wow.
faster. But what happens is that I burn out faster because I guess the energy just stays up here. But when I put it down here, I'm able to like be more think more sattvic. I can like work
Yeah, because I think
not so
this
much about the
creates
passion.
pressure. This creates pressure. You can think a lot, but I think keeping it here, it's more like it keeps it within your body, but it brings it down to the rest of your body. Or I don't know. I don't know that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I tested it out myself, so that's why I can say it made a difference to me. But I have to leave. I can leave you here, and you can still chat, but I have to log off from my side.
Okay. Sure. I think we can end here. Thank you so much for Alina, Kamalakshi, Kamania, and Hari Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.